Hello again, folks. Welcome to the channel. Always welcome, as you know. And don't forget to subscribe because it doesn't cost you a penny, doesn't even cost you a cent, doesn't even cost you a rupee. It's totally free to subscribe. So why not? Go ahead, press that subscribe button and allow me to continue in my research for topics that are of interest. So, okay, what I want to talk to you today about is Britain's financial future jeopardised by Ed Miliband and the Labour government's obsession with green energy and the destruction of carbon energy obtained from coal, oil and gas, natural gas. Does it make any sense to refuse permission of oil and gas companies to drill in our own seas, the North Sea gas fields, which are massive, whilst importing at great cost from Norway? It doesn't make sense, does it? Why are we saying no, zero net carbon emissions from using gas and oil and coal, but we'll import it from Norway and other countries, and we'll say, "Oh, we're not creating it." Well, yes, we are, because we're still burning it. We're just paying extra money, loads of extra billions, to pay for other people's mining of their resources, while ignoring our own and allowing them to stay stuck in under the sea. Ed Miliband is trained in economics, and yet he doesn't seem to understand economics, does he? It costs more to buy from other countries than it does to mine our own, to drill for our own. And we're not saving the planet by not using our own if we're still using someone else's. Plus, it's then got to be transported to our country, so there's an extra cost in carbon emissions. Okay, so Ed Miliband, he was appointed Secretary of State for Climate Change, and he's State of Energy Security and Net Zero, and he was appointed on the 5th of July 2024. He was elected for the MP for Doncaster North in May 2005, so he's been around 20 years. He was Secretary of State for Energy and Climate Change from 2008 to 2010, and in his role he oversaw the introduction of the World Leading Climate Change Act 2008 at the beginning of his term in office, which made the UK the first country in the world to put climate targets into law. He celebrated that, but in fact, the others laughed. They're laughing at us, Oh, we're going to have this net zero climate change. We're going to put it in our law. And the others are going, oh, hang on. That's a bit silly, isn't it? Yeah. But he thought it was a great idea. Now as Secretary of State for Energy and Security and Net Zero, Miliband's net zero drive will damage growth while making no difference to overall carbon emissions. Well, that was what's said by the boss of Britain's long-serving savings firm. He warned that. That was his words. I think he's slightly wrong, because it will make no difference. Well, it will make a difference because, as I said, you've got to transport it. So Nicholas Lyons, he's the guy who said that he will make no difference to overall carbon emissions, and he's the chairman of Standard Life, the owner of Phoenix, and he said the government's decision to back away from North Sea oil and gas has made Britain less secure and more vulnerable to economic shocks. I agree with you, Sir Nicholas. High energy costs and dependence on foreign imports have left Britain at a competitive disadvantage, according to the FTSE 100 chairman. So he's in the top 100 companies in Britain. He warned that the transition to net zero would weigh on the economy and urged Labour to reopen the North Sea to help lower energy prices. Britain has one of the most highest costs of energy in the world, because we're not producing our own anymore under Ed Miliband, and we're buying it from abroad, and they can charge us what they want. He goes on, I think the transition to net zero delivers additional costs that will inhibit growth He said that to the Telegraph, by the way, the Telegraph news outlet. I'm going to see if there's anything else he said, but I'm not seeing it at the moment. High energy costs and dependence on foreign imports have left Britain at a competitive disadvantage, according to the FTC 100 chairman. I think the transition to net zero delivers additional costs that will inhibit growth, he said. We have a raging need to deliver growth in our economy, and the cost of energy is a competitive disadvantage. So solving the equation is going to be a very important part of life. Well, who would have thought it? Well, of course it would. Do you know, I'm struggling here a little bit, so please bear with me. While Sir Nicholas said he believed in the shift towards clean energy, he added this should not be at the expense of economic growth. Let me see. I don't want to misquote him. It's very difficult balancing act to get it right, but you've got to get growth. It has to trump everything at the moment. We have to look at the different costs of producing energy. And if we know that hydrocarbons are going to have to be part of the mix, I would rather use cheaper natural resources that we're producing domestically than importing. Well, of course, only Ed Miliband and the Labour government seem to disagree, and of course their supporters. Britain relies on foreign supplies for roughly 40% of its energy needs. We rely on foreign countries to supply our energy needs, our electricity and our gas. 40%. A statistic that has left the economy exposed to fluctuations in energy prices, including at the start of the Russian war in Ukraine. Why are we importing? How can those countries produce gas and coal and oil and send it to us and still have enough for themselves? Because they are ignoring the agreement that Ed Miliband in 2008 instituted into our law that we would go for net zero. And as I said, they laughed because they're not doing it themselves. They're not doing it. Oh dear. Let's see. Mr. Miliband, Ed Miliband, has argued that the best way to secure Britain's energy system is to cut its reliance on oil and gas by shifting to clean power systems, running on renewables by 2030, in 5 years' time. Labour has banned all drilling licences in the North Sea as part of its pledge to hit net zero by 2050. You cannot get net zero from carbon. It's a ridiculous idea. However, Sir Nicholas, who previously served as the Lord Mayor of London, argued that the decision to stop drilling for oil and gas in our waters before completing the shift to green energy was the wrong one. Agreed, again. Sir Nicholas, you're saying some sensible things, but then you're the top businessman in the top 100 companies. So it's not surprising that you know a bit about business and economics. He said, you see peaks from time to time in the cost of hydrocarbons that is caused by things that are completely out of our control. That is going to be an inhibitor on growth. It's going to slow down growth. It's going to stop growth. I would rather that we access the resources that are within our own control. But Ed Miliband and the Labour government don't agree. They don't agree, Sir Nicholas. They think we should give them up. Let them stay where they are and buy it from elsewhere. Economic madness? I believe so. Norway's energy minister, now remember, Norway is one of our major suppliers of gas and oil. Norway's energy minister told the Telegraph last week that it is likely Oslo, the capital of course of Norway, would send fossil fuels to Britain for many decades. They're living off us. You can't blame them. We're saying, we won't mine our own, we won't drill our own, we'll buy it from you. And they go, oh, yeah, sure, we'll sell it to you. We've got plenty. Sir Nicholas is putting pressure on the government to change their net zero stance, and his comments follow a series of high-profile interventions on net zero, including a warning from Sir Tony Blair, the former Labour Prime Minister, as you remember, who argued that limiting energy consumption and oil and gas production was doomed to fail. That's from Tony Blair. Citing the former Labour Prime Minister's intervention, Sir Nicholas said, as the Tony Blair Institute said, hydrocarbons will remain part of the mix for several decades still to come, as did the Norway energy minister, didn't he? But he's saying it because he wants to continue selling it to us. And as we think about the national resilience, do we want to be an importer of oil and gas from abroad, or do we want to harvest the resources that we've already got? Well, it seems, no, we don't. We don't want to harvest the resources we've got. We want to buy them up from elsewhere and pay the extra monies. Both Reform and Tories are piling pressure on Labour to change its stance on net zero, with the former declaring war on some projects in the country in the wake of its success in local elections. He's talking about reform, and they're trying to stop the fact that the Labour government is buying up fields, green grass fields, crop growing fields, to cover them in solar panels and wind farms. It's ridiculous. Some I stop at times because I think, what on earth are these people thinking? Or are they thinking at all? Labour's union backers are also calling for the strategy to be withdrawn, with the leaders of both Unite and GMB warning that the race to net zero is destroying jobs. And of course, if we're destroying jobs, we're also destroying the tax basis. So the tax basis will fall on those still in jobs, and those jobs, those people who are in employment at the moment will lose their employment and go on claiming. So more and more drain on society, on the existing taxpayers, which is getting smaller and smaller because of these stupid, irresponsible decisions spearheaded by Ed Miliband and backed up by Sir Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister. Sir Nicholas added that rushing to decarbonise would make little difference to global emissions. Well, we all know that, or we should do. He said the matter of the fact is UK produces less than 1% of the carbon emissions in the world. Less than 1%. If we were perfect in our renewable energy and net zero goals, it would make no difference at all to the world at large. It would give us the high moral ground, he said, to talk about it. Oh, we don't produce any carbon. Yes, we do, because we'd still be burning it from abroad. But it's a high moral ground the government would take. But we know that China, India and USA are the biggest carbon emissions producers in the world. They're not going to stop because Britain has stopped. On Monday, the government spokesman said, we're making the UK a clean energy superpower so we can take back control of our energy with homegrown power. That is how we can protect family finances and national finances. Where did they get that from? If you're putting people out of jobs, then you're not making their family finances better. While oil and gas production will continue to play an important role for decades to come, now this is the government spokesman is saying, while oil and gas production will continue to play an important role in decades to come, the North Sea oil and gas reserves are already declining, and we're working with industry to ensure a prosperous, clean energy future. Well, you see, they're saying North Sea oil, gas and oil is already declining, but the oil companies say there's more out there, but the government won't allow them to drill for it. So that's that's a blind over our eyes. It's what they call gaslighting, isn't it? They're saying, oh, it's declining anyway, So, but they're not. But they're ignoring the point that there's more out there. There's more out there that they're refusing the licenses to the oil companies to drill for. Gaslighting by the government. So they're saying it's declining. So we're working with industry to ensure a prosperous, clean energy future. This comes alongside Great British Energy, headquarters in Aberdeen. This is the new company they've set up, the government has set up, the Great British Energy. What a title. GBE, Great British Energy. Headquartered in Aberdeen in Scotland, it has already announced a £300 million investment into British supply chains, unlocking significant investment and helping to create thousands of skilled jobs. But you're losing thousands of jobs. These are, let's revisit what that statement said. We've already announced a £300 million investment into British supply chains. Not drilling, not production of the energy we require, but supply chains. What's wrong with the supply chains we've already got? If there's something wrong with them, then get the companies, privatised companies that are running our supply chains, to sort it out. So, £300 million investment, British supply chains, unlocking significant investment and helping to create thousands of skilled jobs. Skilled jobs in what? Supply chains? What are they supplying it from? If they're closing down oil, gas and coal. Well, they're going to be supply chains in looking after windmills, solar panels, that will be cluttering up our countryside, obliterating wonderful landscapes. When there's no wind, the windmills won't work. When there's no sun, the solar panels won't work. Britain is not a country that enjoys a great amount of sunshine throughout the year. Britain is not a country that always has wind blowing through to keep those windmills going. So what do they do with the windmills? Well, they switch on the electricity supply to keep them going because they're not allowed to stop. Now, okay, where do they get the electricity supply from? Well, it's from the gas-fired energy generators. Oh, but we're closing down our gas. That's okay, we're importing it from other countries at a great cost. Nonsense, nonsense, nonsense. What do you think? What do you think? I'm going to shut up now. I'm going to ask you for your comments. Please, 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 let me have your comments. Let me have your likes if you do like these short podcasts, and also press that subscribe button. So until the next one, I wish you a good day. I wish you a safe day, and I wish you goodbye. Bye.